normally record these on my own, and chat is now not giving me the option to do that, so this video is actually being recorded live, which means I get minimal editing, and I have to do it all in one take, and I've got to do it right the first time, and shit! But starting off, we have a deck tech that has been requested by Somberton. They said, I am going to take half a second to subliminally message about how fun it would be to play a Meteor Golem off of a Yennet Cryptic Sovereign trigger. $15 Yennet seems fun. Okay, Somberton, thank you very much. Or Sombertone, I don't know which one it is. Correct me in the comments, please. But, fine. I will build Yennet Cryptic Sovereign, because this is like the third or fourth time I've seen her suggested. So, today we are building Yennet. She's got an ability that says that anytime she attacks, reveal the top card of your library and cast it without paying its mana cost if the value is odd. And if you don't cast it, draw a card. You may cast it, rather. So we have a bit of an interesting deck because we get to play a deck that has no mana curve restrictions because she's going to be playing the cards for free. But we are going to be doing two restrictions with this deck. One, obviously, it's a $15 deck. The commander is $1 or less, and the deck itself gets to be a grand total of $15 with a couple cents here or there to play with. But we're also going to be building her as a odd mana costs only deck. So there will be no even mana costs, which is going to be hard because we are playing a deck that has access to only budget mana rocks, so we don't even get like the cheapo mana rocks. We are stuck without that. So, just so you see, just so you know, this is our mana curve. This is the wonkiest mana curve I've ever constructed in a deck. We have a bunch of cards with a mana cost of 1, a bunch of cards with 3, 5, 7, and then 2 cards with a mana cost of 9, and 1 permanent with a mana cost of 11. Why am I letting myself build this deck like this? What is wrong with me? Jesus Christ. Anyway, so Yennet, our goal is going to be to have Yennet swing as often as possible and play cards for free off the top of the deck, which means the deck needs to do 2 things. 1, have big things to play off the top of the deck, and 2, manipulate the top of the deck such that the cards that we get off of the top of the deck will always be odd mana value cards and not be lands, for instance. The deck is heavy on the lands because we do have a lot of high-cost cards, and we want to make sure that those cards can come down if we cannot get Yennet to work. So let's go ahead and go into the deck proper. Starting with probably the wonkiest part of the entire deck, we got to talk about the Rant Package, because our Rant Package looking kind of weird this time around. Kind of fucky this time around. Let's begin with Unstable Obelisk, a card that can tap for any colorless mana that you want, all colors of colorless mana. Like colorless. This is what happens when you make me do this live instead of actually letting me edit things. Unstable Obelisk can also blow itself up in the late game to blow up a permanent if we need it to. Bonder's Ornament taps for any color and also can draw a card, which is doubly important in this deck because if we know that the top card of our deck is a dud, then we can go ahead and sift it away. Lantern of Revealing can add a mana of any color, and then we can look at the top card of our library. If it's a land card, it comes into the battlefield tapped, and if we don't put the card on the battlefield, we may put it on the bottom. So it's a scry that we also get to ramp off of fairly often, and it's a mana rock. Honestly, this card should probably be ran in more decks. Then, of course, we have the pretty Rainbow Rock. And you know what? Actually, this is a good excuse for me to go to the fan art section, because I'm going to start including fan art in the Magic the Gathering videos as well, because y'all posted this thing from Riddle of Lightning on the Discord server. Rainbow Rock goes in every deck. Yeah, Rainbow Rock does go in every deck. This is your call to action to subscribe and go into the Discord server and go on Patreon and, I don't know, go hug your mom. All those other things that you might need to do. Oh, boy. But yeah, no, Rainbow Rock does go in every deck. Rainbow Rock is, of course, Honored Heirloom, because Honored Heirloom can be used to keep Reanimator players honest while also being a Rainbow Rock. A 1-mana ramp we have here is Wayfarer's Bauble that can grab a basic land out of our deck. Command Sphere can crack for a draw later in the game when we need it to. Soul Ring is one of the few times we actually get to add Soul Ring to a deck. 1-mana mana rock that can add 2 mana. Sonic Screwdriver, a 3-mana mana rock that can either untap an artifact, scry us for 1, or make a creature unblockable. Our commander likes all of those things, especially the Scry. Explorer Scope. When a creature attacks, we can look at the top card of our library. If it's a land card, we can put it on the battlefield tapped. So if we have the Explorer Scope equipped onto Yennet, we can filter the top card of our library and make sure that it's not a land, which can almost always guarantee that we have a hit off of the commander, unless our lands are clumping. Burnished Heart, because I hate myself and I have to put a ramp that is less good in decks when I am forced to only use odd mana. So this cracks itself and gets you 2 basic lands. Good luck with that one. Also, Midnight Clock ramps as well for blue, and it gets an hour counter every upkeep. At 12 hour counters, it blows itself up and then you draw 7 cards. So it draws you cards later in the game, which is really, really good for what we are doing. Now, we need to manipulate the top of our deck to make sure that we get big hits. So we've got 10 ways to do that, to make sure that our deck is always going to have the things that we need. So that begins with Sage of Days. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of our library, put one of them on the top of the library, put the rest into the graveyard. Easy sifting for our commander. Voda Sea Scavenger. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of our library, where X is the number of basic land types we control, so 3 land types. You may put one of those cards on top of your library, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. It's just another version of Sage of Days. Pondering Mage. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library, and then you can draw a card. It's a Ponder on a Mage. And it costs 5 instead of 1, because I hate myself. Brainstone costs 1, though. Brainstone can sack itself for a Brainstorm effect, where you draw 3 and then put 2 cards from your hand back on top of your deck. Otherworldly Gaze lets you surveil 3, because Wizards of the Coast finally realized they needed to put surveil on cards. This card didn't say surveil originally, and I'm glad it does now. It also has flashbacks, so we can use it again. But the reason that we have cards like this, even though throwing cards to the graveyard may be inopportune for us, making sure that the top of our deck always has hits with Otherworldly Gaze is good, and Brainstone lets us take cards that are dead in our hand and put them back on top of our deck, which is also really good. Hidetsugu and Kairi. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. Again, it's another way to brainstorm. When it dies, exile the top card of your library. Target opponent loses life equal to its mana value. If it's an instant or sorcery, you can then cast it. So this is a burn card. This can actually help win us a game off of another card that's in the deck, which I'll show you here in a second. Dream Cache lets us draw 3, then put 2 from our hand on top of our library and on the bottom. It's another Brainstorm. Aqueous Form makes our creature enchanted with an unblockable, so pretty much always Yenna, and whenever it attacks, we get to scry 1. Portent lets us look at the top 3 cards of our library, then rearrange them, and then draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, which is a way better way of doing that effect for us, because we want to make sure that we put a hit on the top. Then we have Crystal Ball. Tap and scry 2, which is a super good effect for what our deck is trying to do. It lets us guarantee that hits will always be coming with that. Also, I said Hidetsugi can Oops, I Win us if somebody's health is low. We're going to get their health low with this thing. It's the only card I have in the category for Oops, I Win. This is Magister Sphinx, 7 mana. When it enters the battlefield, target player's life total becomes 10. You get a funny 1-2 punch if you hit them with Magister Sphinx and then let the Hidetsugu die, burning them for the last bit of damage. Sphinx comes in off of an attack trigger, taking somebody's life total to 10. Commander hits, takes their life total down to 4, and then Hidetsugu and Kairi blow up, making their life total go down to 0. It's a very funny way to end the game for at least one player, and it's very, very silly. But let's move on to our draw package. It's not as big because, of course, we had a lot of draw in our top deck manipulation package, but let's begin with Vega the Wanderer. When you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, which, of course, we're always doing in this deck, every time the commander swings, hopefully, draw a card. Wind Reader Sphinx, every time you attack with a creature with flying, or every time anybody attacks with a creature with flying, draw a card. Muldrifter can draw us 2 cards when it touches the battlefield. It can be cast for 3 if you evoke it. Dihada's Ploy, one of my favorite recurrable cards, draws 2 cards, discard a card, gain life equal to the number of cards you discarded this turn. Then you can jump start it to do it once more. Read the Bones lets you scry 2, draw 2, and then lose 2. All really, really good for what our deck is trying to do. And then Marvo Deep Operative. Anytime it attacks, you get to clash with the defending player. If you win the clash, draw a card. Then you can cast any spell from your hand with mana value 8 or less without paying its mana cost. That's right, this is our fucking lieutenant. This is when Yennet is not able to do its job, this is doing Yennet's job as well. We're always manipulating the top, so we have the biggest, dickest mana cost on top of the deck, and we are aiming that card squarely at somebody else's forehead constantly. I am so happy that Clash is a thing now, and it is here. But, you know what's really cool about casting cards on the top of your deck? When you get to do it again, and a lot. I have in here a Cascade package, beginning with Ethersworn Sphinx, a 4/4 flying Cascade creature that has affinity for artifacts, and it costs 9. So when we play this, it's almost always hitting something big for the most part. And if we cast it for free off our commander, it still has mana value of 9 as it's being cast. So we get this off our commander, and then we get to Cascade again for a free spell. Deny Reality also is a free spell we get with this. We can return any permanent to its owner's hand. This can let us do things like reuse the Aethersworn Sphinx. Or another fun thing we get to do with it, we get to put the Magister Sphinx back in our hand to rip another player's life total back down to 10. Imagine being a life gain player and sitting at a cool 300 life thinking, you know, I can only die to commander damage. And then I hit you with a Deny Reality, I put a Sphinx back in my hand, drop it back down, your life total goes to 10, and suddenly you feel panic. Then we have Herald of Tzeentch, a 5-mana flying Cascade creature. Just free cards off the top. It's really cool in decks like this. Enigma Sphinx, when it is put into the graveyard, we can put it on top of our library instead, which makes it really easy to recast with our commander. And it, of course, has Cascade as well to get free shit off the top of our deck. Then we have the Ingenuity engine. It's 7 mana, it's got Cascade, and we can sack any artifact to return an artifact we control to its owner's hands. Wow, gee, isn't it weird that the Magister Sphinx is an artifact creature? So we can just put it back to our hand to keep reusing it with this. Any artifact we get to put back to our hand to reuse if we want to. But it's got Cascade. That's the main reason it's in here. We get a free cast of it off our commander, and then we get to just pummel people in the face. But what if the commander is slow, which our commander is? It's a 5-mana creature that's going to be hard to cast, and when we cast it, we really want it to have haste. So we have ways to give it haste. Beginning with Strider Harness, a 3-mana rock that gives a creature 1/1 in haste by equipping it for 1. It's perfect. Moving on. Haunted Cloak gives the creature Vigilance, Trample, and haste. It's perfect. Moving on. Sword of Vengeance gives the creature First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, and haste, but it equips for 3, so it's not quite perfect. But it is still a useful sword we have access to. It is not bad. It just wishes it were Swiftfoot Boots. But Swiftfoot Boots cost an even amount of mana, so that ain't going in our deck. Sorry, guys. Then we have probably the best cards to cast off the top with our commander. These are the Primordials, and they have their own section entitled Mine. Diluvian Primordial. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 instant or sorcery from their graveyard without paying its mana cost. So you get 3 spells automatically. And then Sepulchre Primordial, which does the same thing, except instead of spells, you get to revive creatures from everybody else's graveyards. Both of these cards, if you get either of these off of Yennet, they swing the game tempo style directly in your favor, and they are fantastic. But what if our commander dies? What if any of our big creatures die? We need to bring them back. Hey, it's really good that there's a lot of reanimation in odd colors, starting with this Eldrazi, Artisan of Kozilek. When it is cast, which our commander does, it will return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. And we'll just double check there. Remember, our commander says we can cast the card without paying its mana cost, which means Artisan of Kozilek can come down just for free, ripping people apart with Annihilator 2 with a 10/9 body, while also reviving anything from our grave. Then, Karmic Guide, Flying Protection from Black, Echo, kills itself, but when it ETBs, return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. Perfect. Fated Return, 7 mana. It puts any creature from our graveyard onto the battlefield and gives it indestructible. And then we scry 2. I don't know how to tell you how perfect this card is in Yennet. So I'll just let you build the deck on your own. It's a $15 deck. The entire deck comes out of the total of $15.33. You can build the deck on your own for pennies, basically, and just cast this card for free off Yennet and see how silly it is. Then you have Bond Revival. Return any creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield, and then give it haste. This is really good if our commander dies, and we just want to go ahead and revive it with haste. But of course, no deck I build would be complete without an uncomfortably large removal and interaction section. Beginning with Hurl into History. Counter any artifact or creature spell, then discover X. That's right, there's more Cascade in this fucking deck. Discover X, where X is its mana value. So if we counter a spell with mana value of 5, I guess we're going to get any spell with mana value of 5 or less off the top of our deck. I hope we have a few of those in here. Obscura Charm lets us return a multicolored permanent from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped, or counter an instant or sorcery spell, or blow up a creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. Meteor Golem, my son, is a 7-mana creature, and the reason the deck is being built, apparently. He comes onto the battlefield, blows up any non-land permanent. I love Meteor Golem more than is probably reasonable, and again, my lovely viewers started to tell me that Meteor Golem with tits is a thing. So now Meteor Golem with tits is in all of my decks. If I have a Meteor Golem in my deck, it has tits. I now know that this is an option that I have access to, and my sexuality is now Meteor Golem something. I don't know what I would call it. In the comment section, go ahead and tell me what you think it would be, and I'll accept whatever label that is, however cringe it may be. Then we have Murder. Bog standard, 3 mana, blow up a creature. It's really good when you only have access to odd casting kill cards. Then Aether Gale bounces any 6 non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Yeah, you swing with your commander, cast this off the top, and then people scoop. I've seen it happen. Mortify. Instant cast. Blow up any creature or enchantment. Angel of the Ruins. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 artifacts or enchantments. It also has plane cycling to fix your mana problems. Overseer of the Damned. He prints tokens anytime creatures die, and he blows up a creature when he comes onto the board, and he's a 5/5 flyer to begin with. Butcher of Malakir. We're not a sacrifice deck per se, but if it or any of our other creatures die, like, say, our commander that people will be trying to kill a lot, then everybody else sacrifices a creature with us. It's a way to incentivize people to play fairly with us while we cheat. Shard of the Void Dragon. If it comes onto the battlefield, it's a 7/7, and if it attacks, each opponent sacrifices any non-land permanent. It also has an effect where if an artifact is thrown into the graveyard or put into exile, we can put 2/1/1 counters onto it. And it says artifact, not artifact card. So if somebody has treasure tokens, then I guess every time they crack a treasure token, the Shard of the Void Dragon gets 2 counters bigger. Sure would be a shame if Wizards of the Coast keeps printing that dumb fucking mechanic onto every red card. Then we have the Luminant Primordial. When it comes onto the battlefield, for each opponent, exile any creature that player controls, and then gain life equal to their power. The combined power of all the creatures that you stole. So, we get to punish our opponents for basically playing any form of Magic the Gathering. You like treasures? That's mine. You interacted with my cards? That's mine. You killed each other's shit? That's mine. You played creatures? That's my life total. Then we have more Eldrazi, Bane of Bala Ged, 7 mana. Whenever it attacks, defending player exiles 2 permanents they control. It's fair. Then we have an 11 casting Ulamog, Pathrazer of Ulamog, Annihilator 3 and can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. Generous Gift can blow up anything on the board and replace it with an elephant token. And then Esper Charm can draw you 2 cards, make a player discard 2 cards, or blow up any enchantment. And we are not done. There is one other thing the deck has access to. One whole-ass goddamn odd-casting tutor. Sync Summoner. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for any artifact creature card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. And the deck has 1 artifact angel, 1 artifact elk, 1 artifact golem, whose name is Meteor-chan, and then it also has 4 artifact sphinxes, all of which are wonderful targets for the Sync Summoner to hit. And of course, we need to talk about our mana base. 25 basic lands, as we have lots of ways to get them out with Burnished Heart and Wayfarer's Bauble. 9 swamps, 7 islands, and 9 plains. Dual lands, of which some of them are cards like Prairie Stream, because they can be grabbed with our Angel of the Ruins. Reveal lands like Port Town are in here as well. Port Town, Shine Shadow Snarl, and Choked Estuary, all those reveal lands. Then Darkwater Catacombs and Skycloud Expanse are filter lands that are in here as well. And then we have the fetching lands, Myriad Landscape, Shire Terrace, and Promising Veins. Leading into the Omni lands, the lands that we have for any color our deck needs, Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, and the Thriving Cycle. I just realized I'm not here where I need to be. Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, and the Thriving Cycle. This is the problem of me doing everything live and in one cut on stream. If you don't believe me, they're all here. It's these fuckers down here in the chat. All of them need to be blamed for this. I wanted to do this video normally, like I would any other video, but instead I'm here doing it live because of these fuckers. Axolotl with Cream, don't say hi, YouTube. You don't deserve it. Jesus. And everything's wrong on this end, too, because of that. It's great. It's great. Jesus. But that is my deck tech for Yennet, an odd casting deck that tries to blow up everybody with odd casting stuff. Now, very, very briefly, how would we go about upgrading this particular deck? Oh, sorry, I forgot. There's also board wipes. So Tragic Arrogance. I forgot about these because I'm doing it live. Tragic Arrogance, every player, you choose from among them a permanent they control, artifact, creature, enchantment, and planeswalker, and they blow up everything that is not that. Necromantic Selection blows up everything on the board, then you get to choose one of those cards, put them back on the board under your control. So usually our own commander. There we go. That's the whole deck. I forgot the board wipes. So I would lean further into the Cascade, honestly, because it's very funny to go, I swing my commander at you. And also, brrr. So I would lean further into Cascade if I were building this deck with less of a budget. I also would add more Eldrazi. Like I can't think of anything else I would do besides just more Cascade, more Eldrazi, more haste. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It's very hard for me to think of, like, what else would go in here. Like, obviously, if you wanted to go outside of the deck building restriction, a scroll rack goes in here, right? Like, if you didn't have the everything must have an odd mana cost, then a scroll rack goes in 110% into the manipulate the top section. A reality chip goes in the manipulate the top section. But if you're keeping to the deck's theme, then the only other card you throw in here is, like, a Brainstorm. Anything with a Brainstorm effect goes in here, because Brainstorm apparently costs, like, $2 or $3. The ramp section, 3-mana mana rocks are already budget because nobody likes them. They're like the unloved adopted stepchildren of Magic the Gathering commander players. So basically just pick your favorites. That's really all you have to do in the mana rock section. Like, I would keep Explorer Scope, but you just kind of pick your favorites. Reanimation section, you're already kind of where you want to be here. Sun Titan and Redemption Choir don't get the things the deck wants, and they are also even costed. As for removal, I would actually do a fairly extensive upgrade to the removal by adding in Vindicate, Anguished Unmaking, and every single 3-cost card that blows up any type of thing, like a Stroke of Midnight as well. All of those would go in here, and you would just remove the slowest bits of removal that you didn't like. Because each and every one of those is just another way of saying generous gift, and they are more flexible than cards like Murder once you move outside of the budget range. Also, in the tutoring section, if you wanted to add another tutor, there's Grim Tutor, I think. One of the tutors is 3 mana. There's also Razaketh's Right, I think, which is a 5-mana tutor you could run as well if you really wanted to. And then, obviously, I'm going to stop talking about mana bases because you put more dual lands in your mana bases, they get smoother. Herder. But, anywho, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this particular deck if you enjoy Yennet and her ability to just play cards off the top of your deck for free. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm never doing one of these live again. And insert in a video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Blitzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, Sagitt, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.